think one of the key important points that I reiterate what he said was that the policies of appeasement or the appeasers should also be held accountable. That was one important thing that he said. The second important point that I made amongst many was that designation of a state as a net security provider. It militates against the old established principle of equal and undiminished security for all. That was, I think, an important point that he made. And he also talked about the policy choices that different states which are taking in this region. How do these strain the pursuit of strategic stability within South Asian region? With these thoughts by the three lucid speakers, we move on to Q&A session. And as far as I'm concerned, we can have it for as long as the public would desire till cows come home. But we take some specific question, and I always see raise of hands. There was some pre-booking while we were just walking up to the podium. There is somewhere, I think in that corner, Dr. Umar, who came up to me and said that I've been raising my hand so many times that my shoulders ache. So you have to give me the first chance. So over to Dr. Umar first, and I request you to ask a very short question, sir, and then we move to the other direction.
Well, I'll try to. I'd rather highlight the problem and then ask the question. Thank you very much, Dr. Umar. The problem which I want to highlight is that since morning we've been listening to different speakers. We've heard about academic, diplomatic, strategic, and technological perspectives, but we have missed economic perspective and strategic stability from an economist. That would have been much, much better because we've got Dr. Jaspal, Dr. Soleg, Khalid Banuri, Ambassador Bassett, talking about putting our house in order, talking about conventional force and its importing, and talking about disparity in defense budgets and all that. What we can do, specifically Dr. Mansoor, you can answer, in improving our defense exports, keep the other exports aside, to convert all those no's into yeses which you have mentioned in your presentation. Thank you very much.
So it was a suggestion that you made, or there is a question. If
there is a question from Dr. Mansoor.
Okay, right, from Mansoor. We'll take some more questions and then I'll request the panelists to. So, gentlemen in that corner, answer yourself, and the lady in the fifth row in the middle. These questions first, and then we go to the second round. Ahmed. You can speak up.
Thank you, sir. My question is to Dr. Naim Saleh. He said that after this surgical strike in 2016, we should give a befitting response. But sir, there was a disagreement in Pakistani community, especially in academia, that there was no surgical strike. And now you are saying that we should give in a befitting response. Sir, I would like to draw your attention that what would be your befitting response. Second question to Dr. Mansoor, that technological advancement will lead to the failure of deterrence in South Asia. The question is how, as you said, that India is attempting to use nuclear weapon in crisis situations. The other nuclear weapon state in that response will throw candies on India. What would be your response?
The gentleman in that call, yourself in the second row. Meanwhile, can somebody take the mic to the lady in the middle over there? So, if you could speak on.
My question is about the limitation of nuclear arms between India and Pakistan. We know the history between USA and USSR at the peak of Cold War. They had amassed 30,000, about 30,000 warheads each. But then they had the sanity at the rate that they brought it down to, I think, around 2,000 each. within a matter of a decade. Similarly, UK, they had downsized their stockpile from 600 to around 200 nuclear warheads. I think it is the role of the think tanks like CISS to chalk out the modalities of any such arms limitation agreement, at least on paper. Right? And we know it is very, very difficult to implement. But what is needed, maybe some international guarantees or any other such issues that needs to be tackled so that this spiral of the nuclear arms race is curtailed. Thank you.
Your question is addressed to Dr. Mansoor. So I think we have 4 questions here. We'll go on to the middle after this. I request Dr. Mansoor to answer the question first and anyone else.
Thank you. I think in terms of how to increase defense exports can only be increased if first of all there are joint ventures with other countries for technology transfers. The Indians have been very clear about a clause that there has to be technology transfer in every major defense purchase. I don't know if Pakistan follows the same principle. I think that needs to be the norm now in terms of all major technological acquisitions, especially high-value arms acquisitions. And then the private sector needs to come in and they should be allowed to invest in this. But first of all, Pakistan needs to have a basic technological base which can then be broadened and then exports can be, JF-17 is at least one small incremental step in that direction. In terms of candies, alright, so the Indians will not, if you think the Indians are not really willing and able to use nuclear weapons first, then why are they talking of integrating supersonic BrahMos missiles with the Sukhois and other strike platforms, even the Rafale, and placing them under the SFC. The SFC only operates nuclear capable systems, even though these cruise missiles are dual use. There is another possibility. That is that they carry out decapitating conventional strikes against Pakistani command and control and strategic forces during the crisis. If they are able to strike a Pakistani nuclear system deployed somewhere, or a nuclear site, or a command and control site, that's going to have strategic consequences. So that will probably be equal to a nuclear first strike as far as Pakistan is concerned. Counterforce, essentially, the way they are building up their capability is geared towards a strategy of escalation dominance. What they are going to do exactly only time will tell, but my assessment is based on the kinds of systems that they are adopting, the kind of rhetoric that is coming out of their former officials, and the kind of exercises now you have the joint doctrine and the land warfare doctrine that really talks of full spectrum capability, full spectrum warfighting capability. They're no longer talking about terrorism. In terms of arms control, I think one thing needs to be clearly understood, that the stronger party, unless they have an incentive, they will not like to enter into any arms control. What is there for them? Because they would like to equate themselves with China. Each time we talk to an Indian, they'll say, all right, but we have a China problem. So unless our perceived security dilemma vis-a-vis China is addressed, we will not have any incentive to deal with Pakistan in terms of conventional or nuclear arms.
First of all, the question which has been already answered by Dr. Mansoor in response to Ahmed's question about India's possible first use. Sometimes technology drives policy, and the way India is developing technology, they have invested a lot in the ballistic missile defenses, and they have already entered into $4.5 billion worth deal to purchase S-400 pistol from Russia. They are also developing the MIRVs. Now, if you look at the combination and the use of these technologies, MIRVs are good for counter force strikes because it is the tool which gives you the option to use it. You cannot play cricket with a baseball bat. So you have to use the tool according to its utility. The MIRV weapons are used for preemptive counter force strikes. They are good for that. Combine it with the ballistic missile defense. Whatever kind of ballistic missile defense any country has, it will always have limitations. And it can always be overwhelmed. So there will always be a temptation on the part of the country which deploys ballistic missile defenses to destroy other side system on ground before they are launched at you. So carry out a first preemptive strike, destroy as many systems on ground before they are launched, and then you feel confident that your ballistic missile defenses will be able to deal with the leftover capability. So that is a situation where Indians will be tempted to use a first strike. So you cannot totally rule it out. The second, you asked me about surgical strike and the befitting response. I said, not go for what happened on ground. Take Indians for their word, because their narrative was bought by the whole world. Let us also buy their narrative. Take them for their word. They said, we have done this. So you in response, you also strike at their force, maybe one of their headquarters, maybe some other target across a line of control, and say that, okay, you did this, and this is our response. That's what I'm saying. That even if they had not done it and claimed it, hold them for their word and respond to that. That's what I was trying to say. I think about the strategic arms limitation, Mansoor has very clearly explained it. It is because of the trilemma, the trilateral security situation we have in South Asia. So India will never be willing to accept any restraints vis-a-vis Pakistan, which they feel is going to limit their options vis-a-vis China. So that's the problem.
Before I take some of the questions, I recall the lady over there, earlier raised her hand, and there are several others. I just leave a follow-up thought, which because the three panelists who actually, while responding to the second round of questions, also addressed that we have talked of trilemma, security trilemma within South Asia, in which there is China, Pakistan, and India. What Indians the rationale that they give for their armament development is that they have a two-front war situation. And if you see the geographical imperative, how much out of those capabilities can actually be used against China by India? Where will they use it on ground? So how do you, what would be your comment on that? The second is that the common thread, I think among the three speakers was that in spite of all that is happening on the other side, Pakistan should exercise restraint and Pakistan should act responsibly. So how would you like to quantify that? Can you actually explain yourself what do you mean by that? In terms of numbers, in terms of strategy, what is it that we are not already doing? If you could explain that. So with these two thoughts, I vote for the, and please show your hands. And while raising your question, I request you to introduce yourself, just say your name and affiliation, and I request that don't make a comment, just ask the question. Thank you.
I'm Nurul, student of Center of International Peace and Stability, NASC, and I'm currently doing my research in outer space militarization. So my question is to Dr. Mansoor, that with an asymmetric space program, how can we protect our assets in space and on ground? And what do you think are the prospects of collaborations with friendly states in this regard, specifically with China and UAE as well? Thank you.
The gentleman in that corner, and then Ali, Sayyid Mohammed Ali, so okay, you have.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for fantastic presentations. My name is Dr. Masood Khader. I work in International Islamic University, I am department. My question is directed to Dr. Mansoor. Dr. Mansoor, recently after the Pulwama attack, it has been established that our conventional capabilities and OT is fantastic. My question is, and our T is fantastic, along with our conventional capabilities. My question is, after the introduction of S-400 and Barricade type of HIMARS, what possible response option Pakistan would have after that?
I think Mustafa and then Sayyid Mohammed.
Thank you so much, Ali Mustafa from National Defense University. So my question is, as Dr. Saleh pointed out, that nuclear weapons are not fancy and there is no, you cannot attempt to plug every gap. There will be spaces, as we see during this recent escalation. My question is that considering India's modernization, as Dr. Mansoor has pointed out, what conventional military and political solutions does Pakistan have try to deter or dissuade Indian political leadership from carrying such actions out in the future? Because if there are no attempts and if this is a gap which will be unfulfilled, then in perpetuity there might be new flashpoints, and this might actually be the new normal. And I would request or take the liberty of even addressing this to the chair as well, to answer this and considering what Pakistan's response would be in terms of showing responsible behavior as a nuclear weapons state. Thank you.
Sayyid Mohammed.
Thank you, Chair. I think we would have had a better panel for this topic. Dr. Mansoor gave a very detailed overview of the strategic and conventional build-up in our neighborhood. My question is inspired by the concern that it obviously raises in Islamabad, but also I will appreciate your comment in the context of the debate which has emerged in the international policy and strategic circles, not just in the West but also in India, that there is a space for surgical strikes and there can be a new normal based on Indian use of its conventional advantage vis-a-vis Pakistan. I will appreciate if you can briefly comment what are the lessons for this international and Indian perspective from the Pulwama standoff. Has Pakistan's response rejected this, what I think Mr. Kamran called an Indian strategic fantasy? Or what lessons does it offer to Islamabad and India in future? Thank you.
So I go in this order.
Haven't given us the 16 things. Starting from Ali's question, I mean Sayyid Muhammad Ali. You said that this space is there and how to cover that. This will cause a perpetual dilemma. I think Ali Mustafa's question also related to this. The point is that we should not be worried too much about it, because our problem was to deter India from using its preponderant conventional forces in a full-scale aggression against Pakistan. As long as they fritter away their resources and use them in bits and pieces, they are violating a cardinal principle of war, and that is concentration of force. So if they fritter away their own forces in bits and pieces, it makes it that much easier for Pakistan as a defender to deal with them piecemeal and destroy them accordingly. What we need to do is that we should not be unduly worried about it. We have to maintain our vigil, but we do not need to get into an arms race with India, because that is what they would like us to get involved into. And what we have already seen is that the nuclear weapons provide us an overall security umbrella under which we can comfortably deal with these smaller provocations. And if you look at the budget, Pakistan's defense budget as percentage of GDP 1998 was around 5.6%. It is somewhere between 2.6 to 3% now. So that is the dividend we have got by the possession of operational nuclear capability. So we should retain that. We should not get involved into a futile arms race with India, which they would like us to do. So we are comfortable. Let them use their forces in bits and pieces, because look at their dilemma. They are maintaining 1.2 million men under arms, in addition to the Air Force and Navy. And if they find that they are of no use, how do they justify their existence? If they cannot be used even to browbeat neighbors like Pakistan, then why are they maintaining such a large force? So they have to justify their existence by finding some job for them. That is why they keep talking about space for limited conventional war below the nuclear threshold. So it is in that context we have to look at it. Then there was this question which was raised by the chair about the security dilemma. You are right, geography is very clear, because the geography on Indo-China border is such that mechanized forces and tanks are absolutely useless. They cannot be used over the Himalayas. And that also explains the deployment of these forces. 84% of India's forces are deployed along Pakistan's borders. Most of their air bases and forward air bases are along Pakistan's borders. So they do talk about the Chinese threat, but the history tells us that not a single soldier has been killed with a bullet on India-China border since 1962. And the last Doklam crisis they had, it did not go beyond soldiers from either side pushing each other, not even using a bullet or a weapon or a stick. So if that is the level of hostilities on the border,